print on it where it tells you, normally these things are neatly bracketed. It starts at a certain time, it ends at a certain time. Not this one. This one goes until further notice. And it's not only here in the Bay Area, it's the entire coastline, Mexico down to San Diego. This is kind of an unprecedented event in terms of our experience with an underwater volcano being able to do something like this. But here's the best way to understand why we're not out of it yet. This is the tide chart coming into San Francisco Bay. The blue wavy line shows you what high and low tide we're going to be no matter what. The red line on here shows you where the actual wave heights varied from that. And right there, starting at about 6 in the morning, you can see the big variations. Here's what's interesting. While the variations are not quite as extreme, they haven't gone away. And there's another high tide coming at 11:45 tonight. Now, here's the way you can forecast this. That high tide at 11:45 is not going to be as high as the one that we had this morning, around 9 o'clock. Right as the wave energy got here, that was like the perfect convergence. Just as the wave energy from the tsunami got here, we were experiencing high tide. That's why we noticed this as much as we did. Tonight, at 11:45, we could have another round. And that's why this is in effect until further notice. Much more on this, guys, to play out over the next few hours. I'll be back with our forecast coming up in a bit. For now, Brian, back to you.
Before high tide this morning on the West Coast. And we have lots of new video from all along the Bay Area coastline today. This video from the North Bay. You see the waves hitting the Sonoma County coastline. Of course, you can't associate a single piece of video with a tsunami wave. High tide was also off. That is really not a smart thing to do when there's a tsunami warning, what you're looking at right now. But from Bodega Bay, you could even see a boat out there getting rocked by the waves, plus lots of people that are watching them slam against the coast. And here's some wild shots out of Pacifica. Check it out, the waves crashing right over the seawall. But again, a part of this is due to the fact that we had pretty high tide this morning. And it's all spilling onto the roadway there.
Look at the scene in Santa Cruz at the Municipal Wharf. You can see that high tide heading in, some minor flooding in the area as well, right there on the beach. And take a look at this. Some first responders out in Santa Cruz, and according to witnesses, these firefighters were investigating reports of an electrical fire that may have been caused by high tsunami waves at the entrance of the Municipal Wharf there.
Up in Marin County, some minor flooding this morning on streets near the campus yacht harbor that's at the north end of Sausalito. Police were at the dock warning houseboat owners and onlookers to be careful of the waves and to stay clear of the beaches and the campgrounds and the low-lying areas. And some residents had this concern.
It was high tide at 9:30, so we're more concerned about those pilings. If it had been more water and if the docks could come up over the tops of those pilings. But as you can see, we've got plenty of ways to go there.
And this was the scene at Ocean Beach this morning. A lot of people on hand watching the waves. U.S. Park Rangers escorted one young family off the beach. Those who surf Ocean Beach told us it's not a time to ride the waves or get close to the water.
You just never know what can happen. So I think it's a good idea that we stay away from the beach and just watch it from a safe distance, because it is Mother Nature and we're not in control. Mother Nature's in control.
Emergency vehicles patrolled the stretch of the beach, announcing the advisory and asking people to stay away from the water. Some more video now this afternoon to show you the effects from that tsunami in the South Pacific. And this is in Mill Valley. So check this out. You can see that these boats are breaking free from their docks. And thanks to the rising water and waves from that tsunami advisory. Now let's turn it over to Darren Peck right now with more on the tsunami advisory and also our forecast. Darren.
And just a little background on how this all started. And you've probably seen it a lot already, but if you haven't, the visuals of the undersea volcano going off yesterday, just before sunset Tongan time, but it was about 8:40 at night our time last night. You can't miss the plume. But there are some details in here which you might miss if you're not looking. As the plume goes, watch the waves. Shockwaves right there, see it? Shockwave, and it didn't just go that way, of course. It radiated out in every direction. That's such a great way to visualize why we have an issue now with this tsunami advisory. Now, that shockwave is in the atmosphere, and it was recorded here at about 4 o'clock in the morning. On all of our weather sensors, you could see the pressure drop real quickly and then come back up. Nobody would ever notice it. And of course, that shockwave was able to travel through the air a lot faster. It's a lot less dense of a medium, of an item that's got to go through. if you take those shock waves and put them in the water, it takes more time. So from 5,000 miles away, it actually took about 13 hours for the wave to get here. Let's go back to the weather computer. And I showed this to you at the top. This is a way of measuring when the wave energy got here. And there's two things on here. The blue line shows you the tide chart, what the tide was supposed to do anyway regardless. The red line shows you how wave heights actually varied from it. And what made this event this morning so unique is that the wave energy, the peak wave energy, got here right at high tide. That's why we're talking about this as much as we are. It was a convergence of the two, and if you take a look at the wave energy, it's still there. Another high tide coming at 11:45, which is why we still have the tsunami advisory. You can see how much bigger the waves were. This is Point Reyes. The last one was San Francisco Bay. Point Reyes, sitting out in the actual open ocean, really felt the waves much bigger. So did Santa Cruz, so did all those places that are not as protected as the Bay. So there's the first view where we were looking at for the gauge at the San Francisco Bay. So we still have to stay on guard from now at least through midnight, early tomorrow morning, but we'll wait to hear more from the National Weather Service.